And yes, we are live. I'm here with my friend Mark. How you doing?
I'm good, David. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, you were just telling me about your beautiful extended family and how wonderful everyone is. My listeners and viewers, few as they are, they know your nephews, Aiden and Kieran, but the whole family is pretty cool, yourself included. So
Thank
congratulations.
you. Very kind.
And you're
Thank
having a
you.
family reunion tomorrow. I don't know if that's top secret or not, but now everyone knows.
No, it's just still a family gathering, and it's kind of nice because it used to happen when my mum was alive. It would sort of happen more spontaneously. Everyone would gather and say, "Oh, we should have something." And then when she left and went to heaven, she we sort of left. Kind of nobody sort of picked up the ball with that, but gradually, and it's nice to have my son doing that because. Now with his two children, it's just nice to have family and kids running around and noise and carrying on. So it's going to be nice.
How how far away is the furthest one? Like, do some people go very far away to Europe, Asia, and that sort of thing to live permanently, or do people stay around your neck of the woods?
No, everyone's within probably an hour of one another, so it
Wow.
should be easier, and we should gather more frequently. But it just never seems to. It's very difficult, it seems, to just get people on the same date, same time, being able to like make that commitment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I certainly do.
Like people are so busy.
Kieran set up a Bible study with us. I don't know if you're aware of that, but we did a couple of
Yes.
episodes, and
Yep.
it's just really hard. And it's not because we don't want to do it. It's not because we don't want to do it. It's not,
Yeah.
or at least speaking for myself. But it's just because I've got something this weekend, you got something next weekend. It's just like, and Kieran is the linchpin for that. Like I will not do it without Kieran because it was his idea, and he's got his way of doing it, and I just won't do it without him. Um, Other people are indispensable, but I'm kind of are dispensable, but I'm kind of indispensable because I'm running the thing, hosting it technologically. So,
Yeah.
like both myself and Kieran have to be there, and then I can fill in other people if Aiden can't make it or whatever. But my whole point here is it's hard. It's hard to make sure that everyone's available and all that sort of thing, and that's life.
It is. It is. And as much as you want to, like, real things come up, and it's like, oh, I cannot. You can't be in two places at once. Uh, Kieran's sort of the anchor in that scripture
Yeah,
study.
yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense.
because
I
he's the
can see that.
brains. He's the brains, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So what's been going on? I know you watched. We were just talking before going live. You watched my Father Calvin Robinson thing. You can share opinions about that if you want to, but it's more. I guess it's more about one of the topics that we discussed, and you shot me an email. Did you want to talk about that, or it's up to you? The conversation's about you as always. So, just have you been watching other interviews that I've done? Have you been inspired by any of my guests? What's going on?
Sort of a random thing that I have this love-hate relationship with YouTube because you go there and then 3 hours is gone, and it's not all good,
Content.
spiritually
Yeah,
feeding things. It's
yeah.
an hour ago I was watching for no good reason the Kiss Alive 2 tour of 1977. And it's just like, for what? But I was intrigued and how bad the drumming was. So I just stayed with it for like 5 songs. So there's half an hour gone. Do you know what I mean? And then, of course, I do the premium one because I can't stand adverts.
Oh, really?
So it's lining up all these other bits for me to see, and then of course I'm hopping around you and checking in yours. I'm checking on Rebecca's from time to
Ah,
time.
no way.
All kinds of and then there's pints with Aquinas.
Okay.
There's I love to stop in on Church Militant and be offended and disturbed. So yeah, there's all sorts of. I don't know how I got on that, but yeah, that's the.
Do you ever watch like Taylor Marshall and those guys, those kind of guys?
Yes, in fact, I saw him yesterday reading some priest's letter to the Pope with 10 different heresies that he's apparently guilty of. So I watched that for a bit, and That's yeah.
I can't
I
even
don't
watch it.
know.
I can't even watch that stuff. It's just
There's
like,
some
ugh.
bizarre part of me that enjoys being annoyed. I don't know what that
Are you
is.
annoyed? Be honest now. Be honest. Are you annoyed by me or my guests
No,
sometimes? No.
no, no, no. I always like. It's always interesting where it goes. I didn't think Father or Deacon would go where it went. I thought it was going to be a discussion mainly about the controversy around his speech, the big famous speech that he gave.
Oxford Union, yeah.
Right. And then I thought, oh, we'll get into his background. What was he like as a kid? And that I was a little bit disappointed. He wasn't very forthcoming about. I understand the family and protecting the family because he's a public figure, but his personal spiritual journey. I'm interested in people's. It sounds like really annoying, but I really am interested in people's stories. I want to know why you are what you are today. What set that up, and how did you arrive? Because I'm constantly evaluating myself in those terms, and I can learn from other people. How did you shift your thinking here, or what event was a turning point? Like those things fascinate me. So I was hoping for more of that from him, and I was quite a bit disappointed.
What did you think of what did you think of the chemistry between myself and Calvin? Because I was pretty blunt with him. I said, you gave a very sparse overview of your faith journey. I tried to get more out of him. It was like pulling teeth. Do you think he liked me? Was he annoyed by me, or is he just a very stiff and stuffy guy?
I don't think it was as I don't think you were as prodding
Of
as
course, yeah.
you may have thought. I thought it was logical, the way you sort of asked for a little bit more, and it was true. It was sparse. That was a kind word, actually. Um, I just I didn't get a sense of who he is as a person.
Yeah.
He was more of just a figure,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
know.
Well, I do, I was aware of that, and I was just thinking in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking he wants to protect his family, he wants to protect, he doesn't want to say too
Definitely.
much, and he didn't want to tell me how old he is and these sorts of things, and that's fine. And
That was funny. Yeah, that was strange. I don't. I mean, women are usually the ones that don't want people to know. I was baffled by that.
but he was happy. He was happy to talk about silly things. Like I asked him about his hairdo, and
Hmm.
he rolled with the punches.
Hmm.
But I think what I put it down to is that, okay, number one, he's conservative. Okay, so that gives a little stuffiness, and then he's a talking head on these programs like these news things. So he wants to give a succinct answer every time, and keep sort of a straight face all the time. So I think it's like a form of professionalism, which I don't have and I don't want to have. Okay, but which he has cultivated, which he has, and maybe he has an aptitude for that, and that's great. That's his thing, whatever. But I get a
Yeah.
lot more out of a regular man on the street, regular guy like you, or your nephews that I interview, and Christopher Rice is a gem. Do you know him? He was on my show a couple of times.
I
He's
don't
he's a
recall.
Protestant. You'll have to check him out. He's coming on today at 2 o'clock. I'm actually going to have him going head to head with a Catholic guy because Christopher Rice is Protestant, but he's very sympathetic to Catholicism and ecumenism and these sorts of things. But he's just a normal guy and very open and so sometimes with like I interviewed Lofton, Michael Lofton, who's a big name in the Catholic world. I don't know if you know him, but I found him stiff and too polished and professional and just like I felt the same way. Like this guy doesn't like me because
Oh,
he's not opening up and he's not being warm. But I think it's just some people want to be professional and it just comes across as a little bit cold.
yeah, I'm guarded.
Guarded, yeah, like
Yeah,
show me your warts. Okay, I'm not asking you to actually literally show me your warts, but let's see the real you. Just be authentic and I'm not saying that these people aren't authentic. I'm sure they are, but I'm not getting a lot of it. I'm not getting a
yeah,
lot of it. And I want it. That's what I want. And
yeah.
I'm not some sort of vampire like feeding off your soul, but people, my listeners and my viewers, few as they are, they like to see that. They like to hear the story. They like to uh, find common ground like, oh yeah, I had that experience and or to learn something new, like, oh, there's this avenue I hadn't explored, or whatever.
Yeah, and definitely that. I think I didn't learn much about him as a person, and I was more interested in his journey. How did he get there? And he did touch on, but going to English
Schools.
Anglican schools, but still there wasn't a lot. And his relationship with Jesus, and how that came about, where he made a decision that he was, you know, found that he was being called to ministry. Like that should be like a
Dramatic
literal
story.
come to Jesus moment, where you're enthusiastic and you're like, there might even be a few tears of joy. Like it was very,
Yeah.
it was so meaningful and whatever. So it's sort of like, it was very, yeah, stiff.
It was a bit disappointing, but yeah, I do like the man, and of course I wish him well, and I very much appreciate that he took the time to come and talk to a little nobody like me. So there's, I'm not casting aspersions on him or his character or anything, or his ministry or anything else, but I'm just talking about, like, with chemistry, and like,
Mhm.
am I getting fed by this? Like, is this an organic meal that I'm like, and moved emotionally and all these sorts of things, and inspired and edified? Not so much. Not so
I
much.
will. I will say, I was talking to Aiden about it yesterday, and I said to him, one of the things that I felt like I got from that was, um, it made me aware of how little I know about what we really believe as Roman Catholics about transubstantiation and the real presence, and the differences and nuances between Anglican and Lutheran. Lutherans believe in the real presence. If they, I've spoken to Lutheran ministers, and they'll say, "Oh no, we believe in the real presence," but the nuances of, is it simultaneously Jesus and bread, or does it transform to fully Jesus,
Mhm.
or and he did mention, it's okay to have the mystery, which I kind of liked. So I kind of, I took things from that, but those things fascinated me. Let's pass out some of those things, but it made me realize, like, I don't really have a good handle or understanding of what even Roman Catholicism teaches about that, and that makes me want to do a little bit of digging for myself. Like, I should really know that, you know.
Yeah, well,
So,
it's
so that was
interesting.
interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting. I did learn something, and he mentioned that his Anglican view is very much akin to the Eastern Orthodox view, and I had never thought about that before. I had never thought about that before. So, yeah, there's a lot to dig into, but it's not the most essential part of our Roman Catholic faith walk. It's not. Those technical details are tertiary. They're not even secondary, they're
Right.
tertiary, because we have to, first and foremost, we have to submit to the church and what she teaches in all matters, including transubstantiation. But we don't need to be obsessed with the technical, philosophical, or theological stuff. We don't. We have to submit to it. We have to accept it, and we should learn about it, at least in overview and in a shallow way, like have some sort of understanding about why the church came to this decision, and so on and so forth. And I always point to my handy dandy Ludwig Ott Fundamentals of Catholic Dogma. It's an excellent introduction to most of the dogmas. So stuff like that, we can familiarize ourselves, and we should fall in love with the church in that aspect of the church where the church is guiding us into, leading us into all truth, as it says in the Bible. So, but
Yeah.
the real thing is the transformation of the heart to be, to die to self, to live in Christ. That's the main point of any form of Christianity.
He made a good point too about Christian denominations that sort of have no interest in celebrating the Eucharist, and that was unfathomable to him because it's commanded that we must do that.
Powerful. That was one of the
So it
most
made a
powerful
really
things he
good,
said. That was very
yeah, it was a good
powerful.
point.
That was very
Yeah.
powerful and bold. Bold statement.
But there's also an elephant in the room with Anglicans, I think, that, I mean, it's a bit awkward to, I wouldn't point blank ask someone because it's just too awkward, but the origins of that, you can talk about generally the Reformation period, and you can talk about Martin Luther and all that, but when you look at the Anglican Church, why was it established? And you can't
Shh.
really.
Mark, we don't talk about that in polite company.
I
I'm
don't
sorry.
like.
This is not on, mate.
That's the thing that confuses me. That you've dealt so much, and you talk about the church fathers,
Uh,
and you've retained apostolic succession.
awkward.
Okay, but
Awkward.
why was there a split? What happened? Who was that guy? What was he doing?
I had on my notes of questions to ask Henry VIII, and I didn't ask him. I didn't ask him because I am of British heritage. I do have a certain modicum of stiff upper lip and be polite and
Well, you also, I guess he wasn't that sort of open and forthcoming. You didn't see an entry point for that question. That would have come out of, that would have clobbered the whole thing
it's
to
embarrassing.
death.
It's
But
embarrassing. It's really embarrassing. I mean, in some ways, I do respect the Lutherans more because it's just a cooler story. Like the rebellion of Luther, satanic as it is, it's cooler than the rebellion of Henry VIII. Come on, it's just cooler. You
yeah,
know, it's cooler. But he bristled when I said, "Oh, I have a soft spot for Luther now." He's like, "Did you notice that?"
yeah. I didn't catch that. I know he did state that he didn't share your admiration or whatever, but it didn't strike me as necessarily he was at the point of perhaps regurgitating lunch, but he apparently he didn't. He wasn't on the same page with you.
I
That's
might
for
have
sure.
misread. I might have misread him. I did this morning. I did go back and jump through that interview because I was kind of worried about it. That did I do something to piss him off, or did he not like me? And in my second viewing, I had a softer impression than when I lived the interview. I thought it wasn't going well. I don't know if you could see that in my face or not, or if I covered it up, but I thought like, oh my God, I don't think this guy likes me or whatever.
No, because it moved. It did move along. It wasn't a drag, and it wasn't like, oh, I'll fast forward to see if there's a good bit ahead. Like I
Okay,
didn't, you know what I
it
mean? I
flowed, it
didn't
flowed, it flowed,
watching it. Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah,
flowed.
definitely.
Very cool. But I am nervous. I am nervous. I am very nervous about, more nervous than I've ever been for any guest with Father James Martin. I'm very, very nervous. So I would like to get your input, your advice. You've already said a couple of things, but I do love sinners, and Father Calvin said he was shocked when I said that I respect abortionists and Satanists and murderers and rapists, and he seemed shocked by that, And I said we can't assume that people are going to hell. He said, "Well, no, we can assume they're going to hell unless they repent." And yeah, that's true, but that's not what I meant. What I meant was we can't assume that they're not going to repent. We cannot assume that
Yeah,
God's grace isn't going to touch them and move them. I mean, for many people, they will end up in hell, but we're not allowed. The church has not allowed us to assume that. We have to assume that they're going to find their way. So I
yeah,
found Father Calvin a little bit black-pilled in that respect. He was a little bit more eager to condemn than I am, but yeah, to each his own, I guess.
yeah. I think there's so many. I think the best way I had it described, and I'm blanking on there's a couple of Catholic psychologists that do a podcast, and uh, they're very knowledgeable people, and they're clinical psychologists, so they understand human psychology and human emotions. And they were talking about um, homosexuality, and they were so careful to keep revisiting their point that this is such a sacred area to step into with an individual person. So you have to be so careful. And they talked about different camps of belief or camps of, viewpoints within the Catholic community, within the generalized Christian community, and whatever. But in the middle of that are these people who are living real experiences, and we have to. Very few people actively listen when it comes to that topic. Everyone's waiting for someone to say something that they can then come back and use to build their argument for or against, instead of listening and spending. It sounds. I'm genuine about this. It's, you have to sit with someone and actively listen, and not be waiting to jump in to counter with what your agenda for the conversation is. I don't think it happens much at all anymore. Uh, and I think that's why, and that's for, tons of social and political topics. Everyone, I shouldn't make that general. A lot of people are just simply trying to guide things, shape things, move things, interpret things to win the argument, and in the midst, and when you're talking about something like human sexuality, then, and people's individual experiences, you can really tread upon people and intrude and do so much damage, and nobody seems to really be
Here.
as careful as they need to be. Yeah, yeah, it happens a
Uh,
lot.
I'm hearing myself echoing out. Echo. Is that strange? Okay, now it's gone. Okay. Before we, I'll let you continue on that thread, but I just wanted to interject something that I noticed with Father Calvin. And when I say Father Calvin, I'm just deferring to his tradition, even though I don't believe that they don't have holy orders, as we found out during the interview. He confirmed that. But, he was a little bit taking exception with the fact that I have a very soft approach with my guests, and I let them speak and I listen to them. And if they want to be antagonistic, that's fun for me, but I don't seek that antagonism usually. And he wasn't really happy with my soft approach, but he said I could do what I want to do. Thank you very much. But you know, the funny thing is that I was being soft with him, because he was talking about, whatever heresy and this and that, the other thing, but like he's a heretic. So, you know what I mean? So it's like I wasn't gonna put that in his face, but he was at the same time coaching me to like, no, we have to be firm, and we have to speak the hard truths and this and that, the other thing. Well, okay, you want me to do that to you? Because I could do that. I could do that to you. I don't think it's the Christian thing to do. Do you see the irony of that, the
Yeah,
hypocrisy of that? It's like you're speaking to someone who's a Roman Catholic, and the esteem that I have for the papacy is off the chart. He has no idea how offended I could be if I chose to be petty. I could be very offended by his
right.
rejection, his cold and callous and flippant rejection of the papacy. I could be very outraged and offended. That's not my personality. It's not my place, and I rise above that. So I mean, for him to say I have to come down hard on Father James Martin because he's a heretic, I find that hypocritical, because, well, maybe he is, but you are too, from my perspective. Sorry. I'm sorry. Like, if you want to, are we going to apply a standard? Is it a double standard, or does it apply everywhere? Like, that's why I take the soft approach, because if I'm going to be a hard ass, no one's going to want to talk to me. No one's going to want to talk
Yeah,
to me, and I'm not going to get the beautiful insights about their soul, their mind, and their voyage and their journey.
yeah, yeah. And I think he made a very common and weak argument that has been easily dismissed over and over and over again in apologetics, with the whole infallibility, and just throwing that out there and just moving on, and not acknowledging that there's the tired, argument that we've gone over a billion times, and saying, every time the Pope steps on a plane and says something, he's not speaking from the chair of Peter, so he's not infallible. But they seem to like to just use that, knowing that that's not an infallible, situation where he's speaking, and they know that, and I think Father or Deacon knew that.
Yeah, they call the
But
deacon's father in that tradition. That's why
okay.
I cater to that, and I will continue to do that. Just like when I had Pope Michael, or what his name was, Pope Michael. He's dead now, an anti-pope. But
Oh, did you have him on?
I asked him, how should I refer to you? He said, Your Holiness. I said, okay, Your Holiness. And you know, I will cater. I will cater. I will cater.
Well, what were his pronouns? I hope you got those right.
Yeah, did you see my shirt? Have you seen this
Sp-
before? Are
uh,
you aware of the controversy? That was the Target shirt. That was,
you actually got the shirt, did you?
yeah, because it's an excellent message. I support this message 100%. I want billboards telling us what Satan's agenda is. I want Satan's agenda posted everywhere. Satan supports abortion. Satan supports transgender. Satan supports uh, promiscuity. Yeah, let's get all the t-shirts out there.
Well, I have a question for you, actually. When you were a Satanist, was that did you believe in an entity, or were you just you were the
No, no, no.
secular humanist type Satanist?
Atheistic Satanist. Atheistic
Okay,
Satanist. Yeah.
okay, got it.
Anton LaVey, these sorts of things.
He was a mixture. I don't think he was all
Yeah, I don't. Are you still there? Yeah, I'm not. I'm not.
just
I'm not an expert on it, but
hedonistic.
the Satanic Bible, that sort of thing. I now
Hmm.
the thing about me is I didn't have a mentor, or I didn't have a master. You know,
Hmm.
certainly not Satan. I didn't believe in Satan or God. But it was just it's the most natural religion in the world, in this fallen world, to be selfish. That's Satanism. Just to be
Right.
self-centered, my will, what do I want? How can I get what I want? And you know, thinking that you're smart, trust the science and reason and all these sorts of things are put on a pedestal, and I'm more intelligent than the superstitious Christian people. And that's Satanism. It's a very, very common popular religion. And I didn't hero worship Anton LaVey or anyone else. I did hero worship a little bit Aleister Crowley, just because he's a real pain in the ass and that's the kind of character that I like, you know. But and I do, you know, I do have a begrudging respect for a lot of Satanists who are public figures, because they're shit disturbers, and I happen to like that punk rock attitude. That's just something I'm attracted
Mm.
to. And there's a little bit of that in me, and there's a little bit of that in Jesus, although it's a Christian form of it. You know, there's the Christian form of it, and I see a Christian form of that punk rock attitude in Pope Francis. And I'm hoping to find that in Father James Martin. Maybe that's what's happening. Maybe he's a cool guy. Maybe he's a countercultural cool guy. You know, but my conservative Catholic friends, they won't entertain that idea at all. They just think he's, you know, he's sold his soul to Satan and he's trying to corrupt the youth and get everyone to sodomize each other. I don't think so. I mean, I don't know, but I'll find out when I interview on September 11th.
He's actually he was handpicked for the Synod on Synodality. So I'll have to ask him if he's looking forward to that.
Yeah.
That's coming in October. Did you read that document that they put out on that?
No,
Like,
I generally, with contemporary Catholic news, I avoid it like the plague because it's all depressing, and I'll let the dust settle for a couple hundred years before I look into it.
oh, I tried to wade through it. It's just it's corporate speak. It was agony.
Oh,
I
oh,
couldn't get
oh,
through it. Couldn't
oh.
get through it.
My friend Christopher Rice is in the chat now, and he's been here for a little while. Hello to you, love you, brother. We're going to talk at 2 o'clock. And Jost, by the way, Jost confirmed it's going to be Christopher versus Jost. But Christopher says that he doesn't get good vibes from Father Martin, and you know, neither do I. Neither do I. I mean, my gaydar went off immediately. Um, what do you say? What do you say, Mark?
I don't. I really don't know. I didn't read his book.
Your gaydar doesn't work though, does it? It doesn't
No,
work.
no, mine's rubbish. It's terrible. I make
Assume the
dreadful
opposite. So
mistakes.
so like
Yeah, it's
we'll assume the opposite. So if your gaydar doesn't go off, he's probably gay.
it's yeah, I'm like probably 50-50. Yeah, I'm not good, and being one myself, it's very confusing to people because they assume that I would know, and I was like, I don't know everyone who's gay. I really don't. So I can't spot them. No, no.
Well, it's funny. A friend of mine, a guest of mine, Jost, he was on once, and I really liked him. I had good chemistry with him, and he's handsome, and he's got a nice, sexy voice, and all this sort of thing. And I was surprised. Like, he's a conservative Catholic, more conservative than I am. in the political sense. Like, I mean, I'm as conservative as you can get in terms of Christianity, but when it comes to that so political right thing, he's more conservative than I am, which isn't saying much. But anyway, he's a nice guy, real sweet guy. But I was kind of surprised when he just kind of slipped it into the conversation during our interview that he's bisexual. Like, it's like,
Mhm.
oh, but you know, he's obviously not letting that have free reign. He's not acting on that, but that's his predisposition. And
Right.
I guess in the past he's done some things. I don't know. I didn't ask, but you know, I was like, oh, that's so interesting, you know. And so he was so confident and not shy
Mhm.
to admit it, and I thought that was really cool, you know.
Yeah, I don't, yeah, it's not a common thing if, in the Catholic world. I think it's, yeah, I don't know. It's I mean, I grew up in the 70s, so I mean, it wasn't talked about, and it was the worst thing you could be, because anything any insult, the best insult to give someone if you were a kid was, something like that.
The F word, the F word.
Exactly. So, I mean, everybody knew that wasn't something you wanted to be, and it wasn't really talked about. So, um,
Well,
yeah, and it's hard to sort of. It really is hard to sort out the Catholic perspective in terms of what does the church really say when in the catechism, because it it seems like it should be very clear. But you've had a recent situation with the Archbishop in Africa, wanting and gathering, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of people to uh, make sure that the laws still keep homosexuality illegal. And you have Pope Francis saying it shouldn't be
yeah,
illegal, and then you go to the Catechism and you look at unjust discrimination is the word they use. Is
yeah,
unjust, all forms of unjust discrimination towards homosexual people should be avoided. So if you're going to legislate sexual morality because it's for the good, and it fits Catholic moral teachings, then we should really make adultery illegal. We should probably viewing pornography, masturbation,
yeah,
anything outside of heterosexual marriage. Uh, those laws should go on the books, because otherwise you're singling out a group, and I don't. Yeah, people don't really think that through, and they think, yeah, that would be good. That's the way it should be. Or some people do, and it's like, how would you like to be arrested for having a wank? You know what I mean? Do you want to be fined for
how
that, or
good
do you
was the
want
wank?
to? I mean, it's a funny sort of. People don't think things through.
Let's just say the prisons would be overflowing and there'd be no one out on the outside. Yeah, Christopher says before we advocate for law, we must clean our house and hold the line in the church. Yeah, of course, of course, of course. You know, I've always made the distinction between the legal stuff and the moral stuff. So I mean, I hope you agree with the church that, you know, everything that is not sex in a married man and woman couple who are not like closely related and are completely open, self-giving, open to life and all these sorts of things. I hope you agree that everything else is perversion of one form or another on a spectrum. Some stuff is more violent than others. Some stuff is more perverted than others. But as I said in my email to you, it's just masturbation, different forms of masturbation, right? Really, basically. I hope you agree with me that it's all perverted
Yeah,
and it's not good. It's not good.
yeah. I think it's. I think it's. Yeah, we're all guilty of some degree or level of falling short. I don't know anyone who hasn't had struggles with that. Um, but I do agree that the goal is to keep struggling against. Um, I'd be very surprised if the synod on synodality winds up leading the church to changing church teaching on human sexuality. I'd be very surprised.
Do you think, do
But
you, yeah, go ahead.
there's a lot of signs that it looks like it's the people that were selected to be part of it are of the group that would be advocating for that, though.
Okay. Um, what would you do if the church, apparently and ostensibly whatever, started saying it's okay to masturbate, it's okay to fornicate, it's okay, polygamy is okay, pedophilia is okay, basically everything is okay. It's not sin. Used to be sin, but we've learned, we've evolved, we've grown, and we know now there's no such thing as sexual sin. Do whatever you want to do. Love is love. Okay. What would you do? Would you look for a more conservative church, or would you just embrace it and then just sort of say, hey, I can finally like unleash all my lust and just do it because there's no sin? How would you respond to that if the church, and God forbid, I hope it's not going to happen, but if that did happen, how would you respond?
Well, that's a tough question. I think I'd pick the option of still persisting within myself to seek what God is asking me to do, and would probably stay within the church.
So
I don't
chastity,
think
chastity is important to you. You will not cave on chastity. Is it important? Even though if you fall short, whatever, that's not what I'm asking. But it's important to you on principle, like you'd like to please God by being chaste.
I want to please God. I'm not sure, David. I'm not sure if I call myself a Roman Catholic, my position is that I have to concede to the rules, for lack of a better way of putting it. I submit to that. Do I feel in my heart that I agree with all of it? No.
Oh, really?
But that doesn't let me off the hook
Okay.
because I choose to call myself a Catholic. So I confess and I make an attempt to do the best I can to align my behavior with what the church is calling me to do. Um, but, but I don't necessarily. I, I'm not confident that they're right about everything.
Okay.
But
I
I don't think. Go ahead.
I I love to jaywalk. Jaywalking is my thing. It's like it's very convenient and I don't have to wait and I don't want to die, so I make sure I look both ways and all that sort of thing. I'm in the same situation with respect to jaywalking that you are with respect to maybe lust or whatever. I don't know. You can speak for yourself, but whatever it is, okay. But I know that it's not perfect. It's not perfect that I jaywalk, but actually I don't lose sleep over it. And I've talked to priests, and some of them say it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it, and don't bother confessing it anymore. So I mean, I don't want to equate unchastity and jaywalking. I think unchastity is worse. Sorry, I think it's worse, and I think that's objectively true. We can argue about that if you want to, but I think it's worse. But my point is that if this analogy holds any water, I think that I can sort of sympathize with how you feel. Like you understand that it's not perfect, but maybe you don't think it's as big of a deal as some people are saying that it is. Is that right?
I perhaps I think here's my thing, David. I was away from the church for so long, and when it was obvious that I was not a kind of person that should be married, um, I decided that it was just. I mean, I begged and I prayed for the last year and a half of my marriage. I prayed every night to just not wake up because I could not change, and God was not changing what was going on and my basic makeup of attraction. And when I got to the point of realizing what a way of thumbing my nose at God. I mean, I did wake up one day and realize I'm asking him to let me just go to sleep and not wake up. Um, because this is so painful. This is so frustrating. I can't change this. He doesn't seem to be shifting me. But wanting to have my life end was a worse sin to me.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I wasn't actively suicidal, but it
I
was
know.
like I'm okay. I don't really have any desire to keep living because this is just driving me mad. Um, but when I realized that that was an awful thing, and my circumstances, I was asked not to stay in the marriage, and what could I say to someone I was married to that knew what my proclivities were? I had to acquiesce, or I felt I did. And then I thought, what's the point of this? I'm going to live the rest of my life as this, sad little person. So I just decided not to, and I sought a relationship and found a relationship, and then, it's 12 years now. So what do you do when you come back to the church and you are in that scenario? Wait outside the church till you get fixed? Not really going to happen. Come back to the church, do the best you can to receive everything that you can from the church, to align yourself and be open to having God move things, shift things, change things, whatever. And that was a decision I made most recently about 2 years ago. Just go back and then be honest when you go to confession. Take the advice and do your best to follow it, and God will sort it out. God will sort it out. Have faith that God will sort it out. That's why I don't like I don't like to talk about, like, is the church wrong or am I wrong or whatever. Probably 2,000 years of the church and me, they're probably right. Um, I mean, there's some hubris here, but not that much. Um, but in my the way I live, how do I extricate myself from a situation that I've placed myself in with someone that I have, a connection with. Um, so in God's time, things that need to be changed, shifted will be, as long as I keep showing up and asking him to help me submit, help me submit, help me submit. So that's what I do. Um, uh, so I don't know what else to say.
Excuse me while I multitask here. I'm just responding to my friend in the live chat. I am listening, but I'm just gonna finish my thought here. Wait, I can't multitask. Or it's just important that I answer this because he's asked me a very tough question and I'm just answering it in text here. Uh, okay, so basically, I could have just said I didn't need to type it. Sorry, that was rude. But it gave the listeners a chance to pause and reflect on what you said. So maybe that's good. So basically, he was asking, Chris was asking me, would I stay in the church if the church reversed its, ostensibly reversed its course on sexual teaching? I said, yeah, of course, I'll stay in the church, of course. And then, but then I wanted to say that, it's only because I believe that the true traditional teachings of the church will not die. Like they might go underground, like during the Arian heresy, it was a minority that was striving to keep the truth alive, but they kept it alive. Saint Athanasius or whatever. I think he was one bishop among how many that actually understood Christology and stuff. So yeah, I'm not gonna leave the church. It would take a lot. It would take a lot. And when it comes to all the sexual license in society and how that's being smiled upon by certain members of the hierarchy, and we don't know exactly how Father James Martin feels and what he thinks, or Pope Francis. I'm hoping to find out a little bit more when I interview James Martin, but I like to give the benefit of the doubt. Like it's like 5D chess. It's like the Trump supporters with the U.S. politics. It's like there's so many excuses that are made for Trump. Like, well, he allowed the vax because if he didn't allow it, then it would have developed into something more deadly or whatever. Like they come up with all their workarounds to make it seem like Trump's their savior. And I do the same thing with Pope Francis. It's like I'm gonna make some 23D chess if I need to make it make sense. You know what I mean? For sure. I'm gonna try to polish that turd no matter what. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you about Pope Francis. I'm gonna just no, I'm all right. Years ago, when he said that thing on the plane, that did make me think that maybe I should come back to the church.
What did he say?
So that was,
Who am I to
um,
judge?
yes.
I agree 100% with him. I agree 100%. There's no pope-splaining required. He is speaking as a Christian should speak. That's the truth. Who am I to judge? If someone is gay and seeking Christ, that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
But yeah, but to someone like me, we haven't really heard that, David.
Yeah.
So when he said that, someone like me thinks, no, wait, can I go back? Do they want people like me?
Sinners. No sinners allowed. Sorry. No, stay away. We're a puritanical church. You stay away, you dirty
Well, you
sinner.
laugh, Dave, but you'd be surprised.
They're unrepentant masturbators on the pews in every church and every denomination. It's a joke. It's a joke.
No. But
The hypocrisy to point their finger, at someone who's got a sexual proclivity or whatever. Like, I mean, doesn't occur to me to point fingers like that.
But you are aware that that's prevalent.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you grow up with the guilt and shame that goes with that kind of proclivity, you feel like the people say, oh, everyone's welcome, and why would you not feel welcome, and blah blah blah. And it's like, have you talked to anybody that's, I've had, within the last year, I had somebody tell me lovingly that they were so afraid I'm going to hell. I'm like, thank you. And that's a Catholic, and that's someone who's in recovery. And it's like telling me how God has blessed me with so many wonderful talents, and I'm just worried for you. And I'm like, I just love that. I love that approach where you tell someone how they're so blessed, and then they wallop you over the head and tell you that they just are so upset that you'll be going to hell if you don't. I'm like, wow, and you're not concerned about your own scenario. I don't even know what's going on with you. I don't look into people's, or try to look into people's souls, because that's not my job. But that's people like that are scary, but they're all around.
Well, we were talking earlier in this episode about I've talked to Satanists, I've talked to all kinds of people, heretics, and I always say the same thing, and I said it to Father Calvin on Thursday. We can't assume, even though you're objectively not in the state of, I'm not talking about you here, but I'm talking about someone's objectively not in the state of grace. It's like, I can't assume that you're not going to be saved. I can't do that. And that's basically what your friend at church did to you. He was like saying that he doesn't have hope, but we have to have hope. I mean, I can tell you honestly, Mark, that I am very worried about one of the two of us not making it to heaven, but it's not you that I'm worried about. It's me. It's me. I'm worried about that, but I'm not worried about you, because I trust God. God has a plan, and I know that you want to please God. I know you want to please God, and you're not complacent about your sin where it's like, hey, what's wrong? I could do whatever I want. There's no danger and whatever. You're not saying that to me. You're not saying that to me that I could do whatever I want.
Well, the other thing that this person didn't realize, and actually it was a lady, um, she didn't understand that I lived my whole life knowing, not thinking, but knowing I was going to hell. So if she thinks that she's telling me something I haven't told myself most of my life, she just really doesn't have a clue. Um, and that's the truth. And that was from way back when I was 4 years old. And when I got a little bit older and understood and learned about, God and heaven and hell and punishment and redemption and whatever.
Mercy.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm glad I talked to you. I'm glad I talked to you. I'm glad you reached out to me because you know why? Because I was scared after I talked to Father Calvin. I was scared. I was scared to talk to James Martin, and I was like, I felt I didn't feel, the mercy of God, and I didn't understand. But you're humanizing the issue for me. You are humanizing the issue for me in a way that Father Calvin didn't. God bless him.
See,
He's just ignorant. But you're humanizing this issue. So now I'm comfortable talking to Father Martin, and I'm not going to use a sledgehammer on him, and I'm not going to blast him like they all want me to do. I'm going to treat him the way I'm treating you right now, which is just like listen to what's happening, and it's very touching. It's very human. It's very Christian what you're saying.
I suspect that Father Martin has met many, many people that have been so hurt and so dismissed.
Yeah.
And he is probably in many ways a lot kinder than he should be from the stories he's heard. Because my story is not unusual, David.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wanting to go to sleep and not wake up because you can't change the basic way you feel about attraction, and knowing that this really isn't compatible. So what am I going to do? I can't actively commit suicide because that's definitely the worst sin. So I'll just ask God to just let me go to sleep now. And if you have never asked God to do that, and you have no understanding of that, getting to that point, then I don't really think you don't have the, you haven't earned the privilege to walk up to me and say that you're concerned about me going to hell, because it's just, it's, people are just, I don't know where their compassion, where their empathy is. I don't get it.
It's amazing. So if Father James Martin and Pope Francis and people like them, these softies, if they are reaching out to people like you
Mhm.
around the world and providing hope and love and support and non-judgmental whatever, that's Christian. Like that's what we should be doing.
Well,
That's I support that. I wholeheartedly support that. But the rad trads and the conservative Catholics, they will give lip service like Father Calvin gave lip service. Like, yeah, these people, they need to be loved and supported and told that their sin is sin so that they can change their ways and these sorts of things. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But what you're telling me and what I think the missing piece of the puzzle is with that woman at church, the missing piece of the puzzle is the human touch, the humanity, the connection, the acceptance, the non-judgment, like the love, compassion, like that not essential? Like, is that not the most important part? You know what I mean? Isn't it? Isn't it? Or is it the rules of the book about, love the sinner, hate the sin, this sort of thing? Are you still there? Are you frozen, Mark? Is it something I said? Are you offended? Let's see if he comes back. Can you hear me? If you can hear me, hello? If you can hear me, hang up and rejoin the call, okay? I think I'm gonna hang up and just call him back. I'm going to send him an email saying, please rejoin. Rejoin. Clicking the link. We'll see if he joins. Talk amongst yourselves. So yeah, as I'm sitting here waiting, I may as well tell you I've got Christopher Rice coming on. Oh, here he's back now.
Sorry, David.
Not a problem. Is it something I said?
It was me not keeping my computer plugged in and the battery died.
I thought your prayers came true. I thought, okay, God took it. Good, God finally took him. God took him.
Oh, that's terrible.
I'm kidding.
You're an awful
kidding.
person.
I'm kidding. Forgive me.
That sounds like a Lisney sense of humor. Yes, definitely. Sorry about that, bro.
Not a problem. So yeah, it's rough. It's rough. Your story has touched my heart, as they say. So it would be fun. It would be fun to get your partner or whatever he is on my podcast. Is that something that's going to happen or no?
No. No, different. No, quite happy to have me do what I like to do, and but wouldn't. No.
Is he going to watch this?
No, he won't watch this. No, yeah, a lot of the things in this area, he's quite happy and very supportive. And if I forget and don't say grace, he says, aren't you going to say blessing? But he doesn't. Like, he's happy for me to go to church, and he's happy that I'm going back to church because he knows it makes me happy. And he'll come once in a while, Christmas, whatever. But he's Lutheran, so he basically has a view of all of this is like, oh, God loves me, God made me, and isn't this funny? I turned out this way, and I was married and had kids too, and now have grandchildren, so we have a lot in common. But he doesn't think anything of it except, oh, isn't that, well, this is the way it is. So
wow, two very very different temperaments.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Well, it's like, you've heard me talk about my wife a lot, and she's very different from me, and
she's got to be lovely.
She is. She's sweet.
She is, because why would you have somebody who wasn't?
Can you see her?
You got to move her back over.
Are you able to see that? Oh, wrong camera.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That fits.
She's innocent. She's sweet.
Is she?
So sweet, but so crass and so rude. Potty mouth, extreme potty mouth, but she's so cute.
Did you guys get married in the church?
No.
So how does that work?
That's a very, very sensitive topic.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. I'm in the hot seat now, okay?
No. Don't worry about it.
I'm not supposed to talk about it, but it's just let me say we've been living as brother and sister for 14 years or whatever it is.
Oh.
Yeah. Very sensitive topic. So I can sympathize with your struggle.
Oh, that's torture.
It's not torture for me. It's torture for her. It's torture for her. It's not torture for me. I have a certain grace. Now I've gone through, I've fallen from grace a few times, not with her, but on my own. But I've shared this bad news with a couple of my good friends on the podcast. But Satan's tempted me a few times with lust and stuff. But I'm not proud of that. But that's just the way it is. But the sacrament of reconciliation. If I'm able to go regularly, then I can keep the lust away. But during COVID, I didn't have access to the sacraments, and that's when I fell
Oh, yeah.
sad. That was a tricky time. That was a tricky time.
Well, that's not an essential service.
I went into Canadian Tire to buy a lock for my bike because my lock was stolen or broken or whatever. And they said, no, sorry, so that's not an essential thing. I said, well, that's the way I get to work is on my bicycle. And if my bicycle's stolen, I can't get to work. So it's kind of essential. No, 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 sir. No, you have to leave because you can't buy it. It's under this piece of plastic. See, you can't buy it. And so I walked out of the store and I'm looking at all the things that are essential. I could buy bubble gum. I could buy chocolate bar. I could buy,
Cigarettes,
cigarettes. I could I
alcohol.
could buy I could buy all this crap that doesn't help me get to work, but I can't.
Alcohol's essential.
It's ridiculous. Anyway, hopefully those days are gone and we're not going to have another a repeat of that in 2024 when the election happens.
Hmm.
Ah, it's a crazy
You,
world.
it'll be nice to see the Father Martin interview. Ask him about his time with the Pope.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
for sure.
who gets time to spend with the Pope? How awesome is that, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's one of the things I'm most excited about. Because you know a little bit about me. You know I'm very excited about the Pope, whoever it is. I've
Hmm.
always I've always liked all the popes, like even the bad boy popes from the past, like those naughty boys. I
Oh,
begrudgingly like them too. I like them too.
even the Borgia.
All of them. I like all of them.
Ah, amazing.
It's the, it's have you read the Old Testament?
It's the Office. Oh yes.
You know
Oh
how colorful some
yes.
of these patriarchs were, right?
Yeah, very very naughty.
You've read the story of David, Jacob,
David.
and
Oh, it's just
it's naughty stuff.
debauchery. Yeah,
Debauchery.
and they were
Sex and
still,
violence. Sex and
and yet
violence.
they were still blessed by God
Yeah.
because of their
Repentance.
sovereignty. But I mean, they needed to be in positions of leadership, so
Yeah.
a lot was overlooked.
Well, it's the same way I make fun of Trump, but I do like him and I did support him. Didn't agree with everything, but I do have that same sort of feeling like it's historically like there's this character that comes along, complex character, whatever. But it's a character and it's like you're living in historic times here, folks. Like him or lump him, he's a character, okay? So I like that. I like the character, and I like some of the bad guys in the Bible too. Like I like in the Book of Maccabees. I don't know if you read the Book of Maccabees lately, but
No, but that's someone just told me I need to like get into that because I love it.
yeah, 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 yeah. The second Book of Maccabees, I like both, but I like the second Book of Maccabees a little bit more. But there's a bad guy in there. This guy who persecuted the Jews, Antiochus Epiphanes, I think his name was. But I always get a tear in my eye when I hear his sad story of how he died, and he's a bad guy. Like I'm not supposed to feel sympathy for him, but I always feel,
Uh,
oh, I like this guy.
I just had to write a. I do these reflections, daily reflections for a Catholic in Recovery website. So you randomly, pick a day on the calendar, and then you read the daily readings, and then you try to come up with a 450-word essay on that pulls in the scripture with 12-step themes.
You may have sent that to me, that particular one, right?
Did I send you the one Herodias
Oh, I'm
with
not sure.
John the Baptist?
I don't think so, but I'll have to go back and look at what you sent me. I did read it at
Oh,
the time.
oh, dude, that was a stretch. But it actually turned out not to be like Herodias, right? How do you come up with a page to inspire people who are in recovery using the gospel that talks about Herod's sister-in-law who uses her own daughter to uh, cash in the favor to have John the Baptist's head delivered. And but after just a little thought, it was like so obvious. That's what addiction is. Always about my own agenda. I will use anything and anyone to my advantage, even my own child. And it was like, oh, I thought this was going to be like a really difficult one. And it's like these most horrendous people with their most horrendous deeds. It's like, oh, that's me. I may not have it may the details might be different, but the motives
Yeah.
and the urges behind and the desires behind the actions, same. And I think I made a fairly good argument that it's hard to really judge her harshly because we're going to have to turn that same judgment on ourselves. How do we use people in addiction? We use them all the time. I want what I want when I want it. And if you get in my way, I don't care if you're my kid. I don't care if you're my spouse. I don't care if you're my best friend, when you're in the throes of that. So it was interesting, but I love those challenges. And it's really helped me sort of work a bit on the writing because, you really have to, it's hard to keep to 400, 450 words. It's harder that it's shorter
Yeah.
because you have to be really concise.
Yeah.
But I like it. But if I'm going to send you that one because maybe I'll check my emails and see which one I sent you.
That's
But
not the
that
one you sent
was,
me. No, that's not the one you sent me.
I was particularly proud of that because it was like, oh, that worked. Yeah, we are all horrible. We're as horrible as she was. Yeah.
I always thought, when I read that or think about that, I always think if I were Herod,
Mm.
I would have just said like you can have anything that's good and holy. Like you want a horse, you want a pony, you want a
Right.
whatever. Like but you know, but sin is not a thing. So you can't have sin because sin has no substance. So like to murder an innocent prophet is not a thing. It's not a thing. It's because evil is a parasite on the good. So I thought he could have wrangled his way out of that if he wanted to, like just pat her on the head and say, "Oh, that's cute, but you haven't understood yet what ontological goodness is, daughter. So ask for something. You want a piece of cake? What do you want? Tell me anything, anything." But he was stupid.
Well,
He wasn't wise.
not to mention the whole idea of oh, I did a dance for Herod, so he objectified me. He was so pleased that I did my little dance for. Oh, hey, mum, I'm got anything I want. What do you think I should ask for? I mean, that's sort of like prostituting yourself, but we don't even look at that or think about that. But it's like these were pretty raw people.
Yeah, and now we have this sophisticated air about us in the 21st century that we're oh so different. We're so much different today. We're so much smarter with our technology. We're the
We
same.
don't use people. We don't use people, do we? We don't objectify people for sexual gratification. No,
Never, never. Oh
no.
no, just all day,
It's
every day. I mean,
different now. Now we use our technology to do it.
Kieran says, "Hey, Uncle Mark, see you at the barbecue tomorrow."
Can't wait, dude. So stoked. And I can't wait to see that little boy of yours. His child, Oliver, is hilarious. He's like, and no surprise, I think he's going to be a drummer.
A drummer or
Yeah,
drama?
no, drummer.
He's hitting everything.
Yes. No, he was playing drums with Kieran strumming, and it
Oh,
was
no
like,
way.
dude can keep time.
How
Like,
old
and
is the little guy?
I think he's three-ish. How old?
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Kieran. I think he's three.
Yeah.
He's awesome. Yeah.
I
How would you like to have Kieran for a dad? How cool would that be,
That'd
right?
be cool. Very cool. He kind of is like a father figure to me already, so I always say I've mentioned this to you before, Mark, but I always see Kieran as the older brother. Always see him as the older brother with Aiden. Always,
Oh,
always, always,
okay.
always, always, always. And I know Aiden's a little bit older, right?
Yeah, by what about 3 years maybe?
Are you serious?
Yeah, it could be
Oh,
three,
wow. But it's just because Kieran is
maybe
serious.
two or
Kier
three. Yeah.
Kieran is serious. You know, he
Kieran is like his uncle Ivan,
okay.
intellectual.
Ah, uh-huh,
Yeah,
uh-huh.
very well read.
He can joke around too, but
Oh yeah.
he's got resting bitch face. Have you noticed? Just
I
joking,
haven't.
Kieran, just joking.
No, he's like he's the seeker. Study, study, study. Read, 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 read. Absorb, absorb, absorb. And he has a tremendous capacity to retain everything that he's read. So yeah, he's like his uncle Ivan. Ivan was like that, or is like that.
Ivan the Terrible.
Yeah, my brother Ivan. Those two are, yeah, those two go together in my mind.
My friend Daniel Drazinovich is in the live chat. He says the Old Testament consciousness, suppressed and frightened, knows God as a terrible commander, an autocratic master. Wow.
Mm,
Wow. That's true.
mm. I thought the gospel with the little tale about Herod's sister-in-law was such a throwback
Yeah.
to Old Testament
Vibes.
stuff, because you don't see a lot of that in the New Testament, and it was like, whoa, is this out of place? But that yeah, that struck me as sort of being very odd.
Uh,
Yeah,
I've always liked St. John the Baptist. He's always been one of my favorites ever since childhood, Sunday school. There's a certain manliness, you know, about him,
he's
obviously.
a rebel too, Dave. That's the
Yeah.
thing you love. He's a freaking rebel. He's a rebel.
Countercultural,
Yes, yes. He's not going to do it the way he's supposed to. It's just going to be
raw.
and just know. Can you imagine the nads he had to like tell someone who's connected to someone powerful, that's not a marriage, you're committing adultery. Like, I mean,
It's like
I
that
know.
lady at church that you met. It's like that lady.
I mean, that's gutsy, right? Even in the times where the political correctness hadn't come, but I mean, people with power you didn't speak to. You probably didn't even speak to them, but people in power you certainly didn't, make any kind of criticism. So she was probably flabbergasted that he had the gall to do that.
Did you ever read about the philosopher Diogenes?
No.
Who was Alexander the Great? He was that great conqueror guy. Uh, I want to get the quote for you. Um, son. Uh, okay. According to legend, Alexander the Great came to visit the philosopher Diogenes. Alexander wanted to fulfill a wish for Diogenes and asked him what he desired. So, you know, Diogenes was famous for being this crazy philosopher, and Alexander the Great obviously is like basically like a god in that time period. As told by Diogenes, Diogenes himself replied, "Stand out of my light," because he was this great man came to see him and was like casting a shadow on him, and he's like, "Can I do anything for you?" "Yeah, step aside, please. You're blocking the sunlight." Plutarch provides a longer version of the story, which begins after Alexander arrives in Corinth. Thereupon, this is how the story starts from Plutarch. Thereupon, many statesmen and philosophers came to Alexander with their congratulations, and he expected that Diogenes would also, who was tarrying in Corinth, would do likewise. But since that philosopher took not the slightest notice of Alexander, he continued to enjoy his leisure in the suburb Cranion. Alexander went in person to see him, and he found him lying in the sun. Diogenes raised himself up a little when he saw so many people coming towards him, and fixed his eyes upon Alexander. When that monarch addressed him with greetings and asked him if he wanted anything, "Yes," Diogenes said, stand a little out of my son. It is said that Alexander was so struck by this and admired so much the haughtiness and grandeur of the man, who had nothing but scorn for him, that he said to his followers, who were laughing and jesting about the philosopher as they went away, "But truly, if I were not Alexander, I wish I were Diogenes."
Hmm.
It's like number two, like, yeah, I'm great, but wow, this Diogenes, he's pretty
Yeah,
cool. He's pretty cool.
that's good.
It's the same stuff. You know, we have hero worship today, and I'm prone to hero worship. I worship people. I see the best in them and these sorts of things. And I got obsessed with this 70s prog band. I don't know if you've heard me obsessing about it, but I actually tracked down this 73-year-old man that was in the band in the 70s. I tracked him
What was the
down.
band?
Gnitterlog. Gnitterlog. I got a t-shirt here somewhere. Uh, yeah. But I tracked him down. I interviewed him. He's a sweet old man. You know, he's a young old man, but he's very spry and lively and intelligent, witty, and great musician, guitar player in the band. And he's a twin. He's a Jew, and he's a twin. His brother was the lead singer, and so you know, I'm prone to hero worship too. But I got to meet him and I talked to him, and you know, as expected, I found out he's just a nice guy, just a regular guy, very humble, very down to earth. But it's fun, you know. It's like I put my wife on a pedestal. I've been married almost 28 years now, and I still put her on a pedestal. It's like something that we're prone to do, and it's not all bad. It's not all bad, right?
No, and it's like, I don't know. We need. That's why we have the saints, I think, because we want
Ah,
people that were fully human, that know what it's like to be fully human. And how did you do it? How did you manage?
yeah,
Like, how did
yeah,
you know? And we need that. We really do. So if we see people in our lives that are further along or better, or have something that we lack. Well, isn't that the good thing about marriage, right? And when it's the way it's supposed to be, the person kind of fills in the gaps that where you have shortcomings. That's their strength. Isn't that true?
yeah,
I mean, so yeah, it's kind of sweet though that you would put your wife on a pedestal.
yeah.
It's not a bad thing, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Warts and all, you know, warts and all. It's like you know, it's if you can see, like, the whole point of being Christian is to be Christ and to see Christ in others. I mean, it's just like that's the project. That's ideally that's what we're to do, you know. And Saint Mother Teresa of Calcutta, you know, she did that.
Yeah,
She did that.
yeah. That's an extreme example, isn't it? Can you imagine that?
That's love.
Very
She
difficult.
she was beautiful. You know, she was Albanian, like my friend Nicola Krisic. Um, but you know, I've rarely seen such beauty, just like because her inner beauty shines through, even though she's old and wrinkled when you know, in her later days,
Hmm.
and so short. But
Yeah.
the beauty of that woman, it's like my wife hates her, by the way. She hates her with a passion,
Does she?
with a passion. So, you know, I used to hate King David. I used to hate Noah. I used to hate you know, Jesus and the apostles when I was anti-Christian. And when I became Christian, it's like, oh, like everything that I hated about them, I love now. You know, like I love David. I love that he was weak. I love that he was a murderer, adulterer. I love that. I love that about him. You know, not
How do you
because
feel about Paul?
I love him. I love him. He's
Do
my
you love
favorite. He's
Paul?
my favorite. Yeah. What about you?
Uh, oh, he gives me pain.
Oh, why?
He's so harsh.
He's too manly.
No, he's too harsh.
Too harsh.
I find him harsh.
Ah.
Think about oh, I don't know. The drunkards,
Mm.
and the way, just rattling off a list of, who's not gonna like get into the kingdom, and the word
Ah.
drunkard. Think about that.
Ah.
Think
Ah.
about how we look at it now, and there's no finesse. It's just drunkards. It's
Ah.
not, what I mean? It's funny.
Uh,
But there's a harshness.
yes, but you're not a Bible alone private judgment Southern Baptist Christian. All right? You're
Thank God.
Catholic. You're Catholic. So you got the living magisterium, you got the history of the church, you got the saints, you got the teachings of the councils, you got the teachings of the popes, and you've got all these moderating influences that put Paul's teachings into context. You know, like one of my least favorite passages in the whole Bible is when Saint Paul says, in all seriousness, without joking, "No silly talk allowed." And I'm like, I'm almost tempted to flip him the bird on that one. It's like, damn it, I'm gonna say my silly talk. I'm gonna say
Yeah.
my silly talk. You know, so that's what I'm railing against. You're railing against other stuff, but I'm railing against that one. I want my silly talk, man. So
Yeah.
anyway, we have the church that moderates. We got look at Pope Francis. Look to him. See Saint Paul in the person of Saint Pope Francis. Okay, and vice versa. Like, it's all the body of Christ. And if you turn to Taylor Marshall and say, "Oh, is this what Catholicism is? Oh, I don't like it." No, that's not it. That's one aberrant shadow of it. That's one extreme caricature of it. And if you read St. Paul and you find it extreme, okay, good. That's one touch of color on the palette. But look at the whole palette. Look at the beautiful image that God's painting with salvation history, with the church. And it's like, you can go to other saints. If Saint Paul gives you this edge, you can go and get you can get a softer interpretation of everything he's saying over here with some other saint. It's like, it's a smorgasbord.
Yeah.
Don't get laser focused on one little passage or whatever. So that's my advice to you. Lighten up on Saint Paul. He's saying something. He's saying something true and meaningful that needs to be put into the context.
It was probably that thorn that was driving him nuts, and he was irritable that day.
Yeah, well, I often do think about, my hero worship with the saints, but if I were to actually meet them without knowing that they were this famous Catholic saint, I'd be like, oh, this person's ugly and stupid and they stink and I don't like them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's only, if you got to know them, you'd see the virtue. And, if I, to the extent that I'm Christian, then I would be able to appreciate the holiness of this person, but they might just annoy me. Like, I mean, Jesus Christ is the God man. He's God incarnate, and he annoyed people. He annoyed people because they were not pure, they were not holy. And I'm not pure and I'm not holy. So probably if I met Jesus without knowing it, probably he'd annoy me. And probably St. Paul would annoy me. So I want you to think about that too. It's your fault because you're not pure, you're not holy.
Yeah.
That's why he annoys you.
It's starting to annoy me, Dave.
So listen, I got to get going because I got to go spend a little bit of time with my wife in between episodes. I'm going to be having,
Excellent.
I hope you'll check out Christopher Rice and Jost. It's Catholic versus Protestant. They're going to talk about Luther and stuff like that. But you don't have to watch it today, but eventually you can check it out. But
right.
I appreciate you so much. I love you, and I love your nephews and your whole family, even though I haven't met them. And enjoy the barbecue. What do you like better, hot dogs, hamburgers, or veggies? What do you like?
I am taking hamburgers that I made, so I found a recipe. So we're bringing both hamburgers and hot dogs, but I'm excited about the burgers because I made them and they're quite good. I tried one. I don't want to go in cold, but I'll be grilling them tomorrow. But yeah.
Excellent. So take good care. I hope the weather's good for you.
Thank you. Take care, Dave.
God bless. We'll talk soon, okay?
All right. See you, brother.
Bye-bye.
Bye.